I'm Hannah, 28 years old. On what should have been the happiest day of my life, my parents abandoned me. On the morning of my wedding day, my parents flew off to Hawaii. They left a single box at my apartment. Inside was my wedding dress, burned to ashes, along with a note that read, "Let's see how you get married now." They had no idea who my in-laws really were, or how spectacular the wedding I would still have would turn out to be. But before I share this story, let me know where you're watching from. If you've ever had family try to dim your light, please hit that like button and subscribe. What comes next will shock you beyond belief. If you were in my position, what would you have done? Let me know in the comments. A childhood under control growing up in a middle-class Chicago suburb. I always felt like I was walking on eggshells. My parents, Linda and Robert, were perfectionists. They controlled every aspect of my existence. From the clothes I wore to the friends I hung out with, nothing escaped their watchful eyes. Dad was a bank manager. Mom worked at an insurance company. We weren't wealthy, but they were desperate to appear successful. This obsession with appearances created a tense atmosphere at home. My sister Audrey, 4 years younger, was the golden child. While I got criticized for A- grades, Audrey's B's were celebrated. The favoritism was obvious, but questioning it only made things worse. "Can't you be grateful for what we've given you?" Mom would say this every time I voiced any complaint. "We've sacrificed everything for you kids." This sacrifice was weaponized daily, used against me whenever I showed signs of independence. When I got into Northwestern University on a partial scholarship, Dad said, if it had been a full ride, we wouldn't have to struggle to pay the difference. Not a single word of congratulations. After graduation, I landed a job at a reputable digital marketing firm in Chicago. But my parents immediately compared me to my cousin James, who got a job in investment banking. "He's already making 6 figures," Mom said during our Sunday phone calls. Dating was also a battlefield. Every boyfriend faced impossible standards. My college boyfriend Thomas was dismissed for lacking ambition because he wanted to be a teacher. My next boyfriend David was criticized for being too focused on work to be a good husband. The exact opposite reason. I couldn't win. By my mid-20s, I started seeing therapist Dr. Sandra Patel. "What you're describing sounds like conditional love," she said during one session. "Your worth seems tied to how well you meet their expectations, not to who you actually are." This revelation was painful, but also liberating. I began setting boundaries. I moved to an apartment farther from my parents. I limited our contact to dinner twice a month. Meeting my destiny 2 years ago, in spring, I met Alex Fisher at a Chicago Children's Hospital fundraising gala. My company had donated marketing services to the event. I was there representing our team. "You look about as bored as I feel," said a tall man with kind brown eyes and a natural smile. "Is it that obvious?" I laughed, only to someone else hiding by the unpopular auction table. He replied, gesturing to the handmade pottery we were pretending to examine. "I'm Alex." "Hannah," I said, shaking his offered hand. We spent the rest of the evening talking about everything except business. Alex made me laugh harder than I had in months. Our first date was at a small Italian restaurant in Lincoln Park. Alex arrived in a modest sedan. He wore jeans and a button-down shirt. He mentioned working in the family business, but didn't elaborate, and I didn't pry. After years of watching my parents judge people by status, his humility was refreshing. 6 months into dating, during a weekend trip to Michigan, I learned more about Alex's background. While walking along the lakefront, he casually mentioned that his family owned Fisher and Sons. Wait, I stopped walking. Fisher and Sons, the high-end jewelry store, with locations in New York, Chicago, and Los Angeles? Yes, that's right. My great-grandfather started the company in 1920. Dad runs it now. I usually don't lead with that information. Alex looked slightly uncomfortable. Why not? People's attitudes change when they think you have money. I'd rather be known for myself, not for my family's name. His honesty deeply moved me. He could have used his family's name to impress. Instead, he chose to live modestly and be judged on his own merit. Eventually, I couldn't avoid introducing Alex to my parents anymore. We'd been dating almost a year. I reluctantly arranged dinner at their house. The evening was as uncomfortable as expected. My parents were coldly polite. They interrogated Alex about his job and future plans with thinly veiled skepticism. When he mentioned working in the family jewelry business, Dad assumed he was a sales clerk. He made condescending remarks about retail work. Alex didn't correct him. He simply said he enjoyed the craftsmanship side of the industry. On the drive home, I apologized repeatedly. "I'm so sorry about my parents." Alex reached over and took my hand. "Hannah, you have nothing to apologize for. Their opinions won't change how I feel about you." The perfect moment 18 months into our relationship, Alex proposed. It happened during a private dinner at the Art Institute's rooftop restaurant. He got down on one knee with a stunning ring he designed himself, an emerald-cut diamond set in platinum. Small sapphires, my birthstone, were embedded in the band. "Hannah, despite every obstacle, you've shown me what it means to be brave and true to yourself. Will you marry me?" Through tears of joy, I didn't hesitate to say yes. When I called my parents the next day to share the news, their reaction was lukewarm at best. "Well, I suppose congratulations are in order," Mom said without enthusiasm. "But you've only known him a year and a half. Seems a bit rushed." Dad was more direct. "If he's planning to support a family, I hope he has better career prospects than retail." Wedding planning becomes a battlefield the months after our engagement should have been filled with joy. Instead, they became an exercise in managing family drama. Alex and I envisioned an elegant, intimate wedding at the Chicago Botanic Garden. About 100 guests. When Alex's parents, Catherine and James Fisher, offered to pay for the wedding as their gift, I was moved by their generosity. "Your family now," Catherine said warmly. "Let us do this for you." But my parents saw their offer as an insult. "We can contribute to our own daughter's wedding," Dad insisted during an uncomfortable dinner. Despite their limited financial means, once wedding planning began, my parents complained about every decision we made. The venue was too flashy. The menu was too exotic. Every choice became a battlefield. I invited Mom to help choose my wedding dress, hoping it would be a bonding experience. We visited an upscale bridal boutique where I fell in love with a classic A-line gown with delicate beadwork. $10,000 for a dress you'll wear once? Mom shouted loud enough for other shoppers to hear. "That's immoral, Hannah. I raised you better than this." The dress was actually discounted as a previous season design. Catherine had personally assured me not to worry about the cost. Still, Mom's reaction left me crying in the boutique's fitting room. "What's the point?" she said. "You prefer Catherine's opinion to mine anyway." In contrast, shopping with Catherine the following weekend was a joyful experience. When I finally said yes to the dress I loved, she hugged me. "You look absolutely beautiful, Hannah. Alex won't be able to take his eyes off you." The tension reached its peak at the rehearsal dinner. The Fishers hosted it at an upscale restaurant overlooking Lake Michigan. They'd arranged a private room with personalized menus, thoughtful touches like framed photos of Alex and me throughout our relationship. During the toasts, Alex's father spoke warmly about welcoming me into the family. He also expressed his joy at seeing his son so happy. Then it was my father's turn, but he began a speech dripping with sarcasm. Dad raised his glass. The room fell silent. "Hannah has always been a girl with big dreams," he said. He paused for effect, then continued. "Sometimes unrealistically big dreams. But it seems her ambition has paid off this time." The expressions on Alex's family faces froze. "She's certainly secured her position." Those words summarized my entire 28 years, as if I were nothing more than a gold-digging opportunist. The implication hung in the air that I'd pursued Alex for his family's money. During the uncomfortable silence that followed, my cheeks burned with heat, my heart pounded, and my palms grew sweaty. Later that night, I confronted my parents in their hotel room. "How could you say that? Do you really think I'm with Alex for money?" "We're just worried about you," Mom replied defensively. "You've always been impulsive. I'm 28 years old, not a child. I'm marrying Alex because I love him." Watch your tone, Dad warned. We're still your parents. Then act like it, I replied, my voice shaking. Tomorrow is supposed to be the happiest day of my life. The morning of betrayal on my wedding day. I woke early. Excitement and nerves had made sleep impossible. The suite I'd booked at the Four Seasons overlooked Lake Michigan. The June sunrise cast golden light across the water. I was pouring my first cup of coffee when the phone rang. Seeing my sister's name on the screen, I answered cheerfully. Morning. Are you on your way? The hairstylist will be here in an hour. There was a pause before Audrey spoke, her voice more hesitant than usual. Hannah, I don't know how to tell you this, but Mom and Dad aren't here. What do you mean they're not here? I asked, confused. They left, Hannah. They flew to Hawaii this morning. They said they won't attend the wedding. My coffee cup slipped from my hands. It crashed to the floor, the sound breaking the silence. Hot coffee spread at my feet. The bitter aroma filled my nose. That can't be true. Today is my wedding day. Why would they do this? Audrey's voice grew smaller. Mom said you chose his family over theirs. Dad said you needed to learn a lesson about loyalty. There's more. They left a package at your apartment. The building manager called me when he couldn't reach you. Dad insisted someone pick it up this morning. The world felt like it was tilting. My parents had abandoned me on my wedding day, not because of an emergency or illness, but deliberately, as punishment for imagined disloyalty. When my bridesmaids arrived, they found me sitting on the bathroom floor crying. My best friend Jess took charge. She sent someone to my apartment to retrieve the mysterious package. They've always been difficult, I sobbed, but I never thought they'd do something like this. Catherine arrived shortly after. She immediately wrapped me in a maternal embrace. Hannah, I'm so sorry, she said, holding me tight. But listen, Alex loves you. We love you. This wedding is happening, with or without your parents. While the makeup artist tried to salvage my tear-swollen eyes, the package from my apartment arrived. A large box wrapped in brown paper. My name written in Dad's handwriting. Should I open it? Jess offered, worried about the contents. No, I need to see it, I insisted, though my stomach churned with dread. I carefully lifted the lid. Then I gasped. Inside was my wedding dress, or what had been my dress. The dress Catherine and I had chosen together was now a partially burned ruin. The delicate beadwork had melted. The silk was charred around the edges. A handwritten note was pinned to the remains of the bodice. Let's see how you get married now. Maybe this time you'll remember where your loyalty should lie. A collective gasp filled the room. Catherine covered her mouth in horror. The smell of burned silk stung my nose. They burned my wedding dress, I whispered as shock transformed into bone-deep pain. They actually destroyed my dress to try to stop my wedding. The cruelty of this act was breathtaking. This wasn't mere disapproval or absence. This was an active attempt to sabotage one of the most important days of my life. In that moment, something fundamental shifted inside me. About my relationship with my parents. About my relationship with myself. As if sensing my thoughts, Catherine knelt beside me. Hannah, this is horrible and unforgivable, but we're not stopping this day. I have an idea. She quickly called her friend Dan, who owned a high-end boutique downtown. Within an hour, a selection of designer wedding gowns in my size was delivered to the hotel suite. Among them was a stunning Vera Wang creation that fit as if it had been made for me. While I was being fitted, Alex called. Hannah, I'm so sorry, he said, his voice tight with anger on my behalf. Whatever you want to do today is your choice. If you want to postpone, we can. If you want to elope instead, I'm ready. This is your decision. His understanding brought fresh tears, but it also strengthened my resolve. I want to marry you today, I told him. I won't let them ruin this. They've taken enough already. By early afternoon, a transformation had occurred. The new dress fit perfectly. My makeup had been reapplied to cover all traces of tears. My bridesmaids surrounded me with love and encouragement, but as we prepared to leave for the Botanic Garden, a new worry surfaced. Who's going to walk me down the aisle? Catherine provided the answer. James would be honored, if you'll allow it. The gesture moved me deeply. Alex's father had shown me more respect and kindness in 1 year than my own father had in 28 years. I would be grateful, I replied. The perfect reversal despite the morning's trauma. My wedding was everything I could have hoped for. The Chicago Botanic Garden was in full summer bloom. It created a natural cathedral of flowers and greenery. As a string quartet played Pachelbel's canon, I walked down the aisle on James' arm, my eyes fixed on Alex waiting for me beneath an arch of white roses and ivy. My parents' absence created a hollow space in my heart, but it was quickly filled by the genuine warmth from everyone present. As I passed, friends and family on both sides stood up. Their faces reflected happiness for us rather than pity for my situation. When James placed my hand in Alex's, he added an unscripted moment. He kissed my cheek and whispered, "We are proud to welcome you into our family." The simple sincerity of his words healed something broken inside me. "You've shown me what true strength looks like," Alex said, never taking his eyes from mine. "I promise to be your partner, your champion, and your safe harbor, today and always." When my turn came, my voice trembled only slightly. "Alex, you've taught me that love shouldn't come with conditions or expectations. You accept me completely as I am. I treasure that gift. I promise to return it to you every day of our life together." When we exchanged rings and were declared husband and wife, a sense of peace enveloped me. This moment was ours. Even my parents' cruel attempt to derail our wedding couldn't diminish it. New beginnings, the reception was held in the garden's glass unclosed pavilion. It was transformed with twinkling lights and centerpieces of garden roses and wildflowers. During cocktail hour, countless guests approached to congratulate us, unaware of the morning's drama or the dress change. The traditional father-daughter dance was reimagined as a special dance with James. The band played Frank Sinatra's "The Way You Look Tonight." As we moved across the floor, he spoke quietly. "Catherine, and I want you to know that we consider you our daughter now, Hannah. Not just legally, but in our hearts." Later, during the toasts, Catherine stood and raised her glass. When Alex brought Hannah home to meet us, we immediately knew he'd found his perfect partner. Her kindness, intelligence, and strength of character shone from the very first moment. Today, we don't just gain a daughter-in-law, we gain a daughter. Her words brought fresh tears to my eyes, but this time they were tears of gratitude rather than pain. Truth revealed 2 days later, Alex and I left for our honeymoon, a 3-week trip to Italy that his parents had arranged as their wedding gift. During a quiet evening at our hotel in Florence, I decided to post a selection of wedding photos on social media. Why should I hide my happiness to protect people who had tried to destroy me? I chose 12 photos that captured the beauty and emotion of our perfect day. I included several pictures with Alex's family, particularly images where we were all dressed up. The Fisher family had generations of fine jewelry craftsmanship behind them. This legacy was subtly evident in the elaborate pieces Catherine wore. Within hours, the post received hundreds of likes and comments from friends and acquaintances expressing congratulations. But a comment from my replacement dress designer brought unexpected attention to the post. "Absolutely honored to have my design chosen for your special day," Tayan wrote, tagging her boutique account. The high-profile tag led to the post being shared in fashion circles. It reached a much wider audience than I'd anticipated. The combination of beautiful setting, designer dress, and the presence of the Fisher family, known for their exclusive jewelry empire, it created a perfect storm of social media interest. Calls of regret our return flight from Rome landed in Chicago on a humid July afternoon. The moment I took my phone off airplane mode, it began buzzing continuously with notifications. 99 missed calls, 68 text messages, dozens of voicemails, most from my parents. Back at our apartment, I finally found the courage to listen to the first voicemail from Mom. Her voice was tight with barely controlled anger. "Hannah, call me back immediately. We need to discuss these photos you posted. How could you humiliate us like this? Call me back." Each subsequent message became more demanding and accusatory. By the 20th voicemail, Mom was actually shouting, "You deliberately hid who the Fishers really are. Do you realize how this makes us look? Everyone can see that you married for money and didn't even have the courtesy to tell your own parents. If we had known, we never would have left." My stomach turned. Yes, seeing Catherine's $1 million jewelry in the photos, my parents had finally realized what they had thrown away, and now they were desperate to cling to that wealth. "They think I married Alex and his family for money," I told Alex, who was growing angrier by the minute. "And they're furious that they missed out on benefiting from that connection themselves." "Unbelievable," he said, running his hands through his hair. "After what they did to the dress, abandoning you on our wedding day, they have the audacity to be angry at you." Scrolling through the text messages, each was more demanding than the last. The final one, sent hours before we landed, read, "We're coming to your apartment tomorrow at 6 p.m. Be there. We need to discuss fixing this situation." Fixing this situation? I repeated in disbelief. The final confrontation the next evening, at exactly 6 o'clock, the doorbell rang. Alex squeezed my hand one last time. I took a deep breath and opened the door. I found my parents looking surprisingly unrepentant given the circumstances. Finally, Mom said, pushing past me into the apartment, "We've been trying to reach you for days." Dad followed. He looked around the apartment critically. "So this is where you're living." Surprisingly modest, considering the Fishers. I steadied my voice and said, "Dad, considering what?" "Considering you married into the Fisher family," he replied bluntly. "Why did you hide who they really are from us? Did you think we wouldn't find out?" "I didn't hide anything. You didn't ask, and it wasn't relevant. Alex doesn't define himself by his family's business. Neither do I." "Not relevant?" Mom's voice rose. "You married into one of Chicago's wealthiest families and thought that wasn't worth mentioning to your own parents?" Alex stepped forward firmly. "With respect, Mr. Bennett, after your behavior on the wedding day, I think you forfeited the right to demand explanations." Dad's face darkened. "This doesn't concern you, young man. This is between us and our daughter." "Actually, this concerns me very much," Alex replied firmly. "You abandoned my wife on our wedding day. You maliciously destroyed her wedding dress. And now you come to our home making accusations because you discovered my family has money." Mom waved her hand dismissively. "We certainly made mistakes. We were upset and acted impulsively. But family forgives each other. We need to move forward now. We should properly introduce ourselves to the Fishers. We should host a reception for you too." I was speechless for a moment at the audacity. They hadn't come to apologize. They'd come to strategize how to profit from our marriage. "Let me get this straight," I said slowly. "You abandoned me on my wedding day with a malicious note and a destroyed dress. You said nothing for weeks. Then you saw photos showing the Fishers' wealth and suddenly want to play happy family and host receptions. As if nothing happened." "Don't be dramatic, Hannah," Dad scoffed. "Everyone makes mistakes. We were hurt that you seemed to prefer his family to your own family. But now we understand the situation better." "The situation?" I repeated. "You mean now that you know Alex's family has money, you want to be part of our lives? That's not how it works. You can't treat people terribly and then expect forgiveness when you realize there might be benefits." "We're your parents," Mom said, raising her voice. "Family is forever. The Fishers should meet us." I shook my head. "It's too late." My version of events. I felt my self-control slipping. "There are no versions, only facts. You abandoned me. You destroyed my wedding dress. You left a note saying, 'Let's see how you get married now.' These aren't interpretations. They're what you actually did. We didn't think the Fishers would just buy you a new dress," Dad argued. "If we had known who they were, if you had known they were wealthy, you would have acted differently." I finished for him. "That makes it worse, not better. It means your love and support are conditional, not just on whether I meet your expectations, but on what you can get from the relationship." Mom's expression hardened. "I don't like your tone, Hannah. After everything we've done for you, what have you done for me?" The accumulated hurt finally exploded as I interrupted. Years of criticism? Unfavorable comparisons to others? Making me feel never good enough? Abandoning me on my wedding day? Tell me what I should be grateful for." Heavy silence filled the room. My parents exchanged glances. They were clearly unprepared for this version of me, the one who wouldn't accept their manipulation. "We want to meet the Fishers," Dad finally said, changing tactics. Surely that's not too much to ask. Alex, who had been quietly supportive beside me, spoke up. "My parents know what you did to Hannah. They've seen the dress. They've seen her heart break. I don't think they'd be interested in meeting you under these circumstances. So you've turned them against us," Mom accused. "There are no sides to this," I said firmly. "Only truth. And the truth is that you showed exactly who you are and what I mean to you. I won't expose the Fishers, who have shown me nothing but kindness and acceptance, to your brand of toxic family dynamics." Dad's face reddened with anger. "So that's how it is? You choose them over your own blood." "I'm choosing myself," I replied more clearly than perhaps ever before in my life. "I'm choosing not to accept hurtful treatment from anyone, including family, especially from parents who should love me unconditionally. But you've never loved any version of me that didn't serve your needs." "Fine," Mom shouted, grabbing her purse. "When you come to your senses and realize what you're throwing away, don't expect us to welcome you back with open arms." "I know all about consequences," I said quietly. "I've lived with the consequences of your conditional love my entire life. That stops now." As they headed toward the door, Dad turned back. "This isn't over. By the way, your sister agrees with us about this. She thinks you've been completely selfish through this whole situation. It was a final attempt to hurt me and make me feel isolated. But I knew better." Audrey had texted me personally after seeing the wedding photos. She'd apologized for not standing up to our parents more strongly. "Goodbye, Dad," I said, opening the door. "Mom, I hope someday you can look back at your actions and understand why this is happening. Until then, I need distance from this relationship." After they left, I collapsed on the couch, emotionally exhausted, but also strangely at peace. Alex sat beside me and wrapped me in his arms. "I'm proud of you," he whispered into my hair. "That couldn't have been easy." "Actually, it was easier than I thought," I admitted. "Once I stopped seeking their approval and started standing up for what I deserve, the words just came. New family, new hope." In the weeks that followed, word of my parents' behavior somehow leaked to extended family and social circles, probably through Mom's distorted version of events. But unexpectedly, this backfired on them. Several relatives reached out to express support for me. They shared their own stories of my parents' manipulative behavior over the years. The biggest surprise came when Audrey called one evening. "I saw the burned dress, Hannah. Mom still has it. Can you believe that? Like some kind of trophy. I found it in her closet when I was helping unpack from Hawaii." That's when I knew everything they told me about what happened was a lie. Her support meant more than she could know. For years, my parents had used her as a wedge between us, preventing us from forming a united front. Now, seeing the truth for herself, she was finally free from their manipulation too. Spring was a time of deep healing and growth. With Alex's support and regular sessions with Dr. Patel, I began processing the deep wounds from childhood. Then unexpected news came. I discovered I was pregnant. Having a child doesn't obligate you to rebuild relationships with your parents, Dr. Patel assured me when I voiced these concerns. Recognition is the first step to breaking harmful cycles. You recognize what was harmful about your parents' approach. That means you can consciously choose a different path. As my pregnancy progressed, Catherine became an unexpected source of wisdom and support. "There's no such thing as a perfect parent, Hannah," she said one afternoon as we prepared the nursery in our new house in Lincoln Park. "The difference is whether you can admit mistakes and repair relationships when things go wrong. Your parents never learned that skill, but you have it." 2 weeks before my due date, an envelope arrived with my parents' return address. Inside was a card congratulating us on the baby. There was no apology for the past, only a statement expecting to be involved in their grandchild's life. After careful consideration and many conversations with Alex, I wrote a brief but firm reply. "I will not expose my child to the conditional love and manipulation I grew up with. when you're ready to take responsibility for your actions and commit to respectful boundaries, we can discuss supervised visits. Until then, this door remains closed. It was one of the hardest letters I'd ever written, but also one of the most necessary. Complete Victory Lily Catherine Fisher was born on a bright October morning, healthy and perfect. She had Alex's brown eyes and my stubborn chin. Looking at her in my arms, I felt pure, unconditional love. I cried. This was how family should feel, not as an endless quest for approval, but as a safe harbor of acceptance and support. The journey from a burned wedding dress to this moment had been painful, but also transformative. I had lost the family I was born into, but I had gained a chosen family that showed me what love without conditions looked like. I had found my voice and my boundaries. Most importantly, I discovered that family is defined not by blood, but by how we treat each other. The Fishers had welcomed me without reservation, but the real gift was finding the strength to demand better treatment and the courage to walk away when it wasn't given. Watching my daughter grow, I'm grateful for the painful lessons that brought me to this place of peace. The legacy I'll pass to her won't be one of criticism and conditional love. It will be one of self-respect and the courage to choose relationships that recognize her worth. If you've ever had to distance yourself from toxic family members, know that you're not alone. Your worth isn't determined by people who can't see it. Sometimes the most loving thing we can do for ourselves is to walk away from people who can't love us as we deserve. Thank you for listening to my story. If this resonated with you, please support this channel by liking and subscribing. Share your own experiences in the comments. Have you ever had to set boundaries with family members? Your story matters and might help someone else feel less alone in their own journey. If you think this video might give someone else courage, please share it. We all need reminders sometimes that we're not alone and that we are worthy of love. Until next time, be kind to yourself and don't be afraid to accept the love you deserve. We all need reminders sometimes that we're not alone and that we are worthy of love. Until next time, be kind to yourself and don't be afraid to accept the love you deserve.